1996
Throwback
shirt from my daughter, Sammy, that says, I love Daddy, I heart Daddy, with her handprint.
Oh,
Isn't that sweet? They made that for a birthday thing. Why are you laughing? I try to comply and you're laughing.
The look on
think it's
Stephanie's
cool.
face is like,
Isn't it?
oh my gosh.
I haven't seen puff paint in a long time.
Is that what that's
Do they
called?
still make that stuff?
Yeah.
I have shirts from all the kids like this, and I have ties with this kind of stuff on it.
Really?
I
That
call
doesn't
it,
surprise me either.
I call it glue. Well, that was what they did.
Yeah.
They made the ties for me with
It's
it.
sweet.
So there you go. I told Sammy to watch the feed. Video for YouTube. We're still on YouTube, right? We haven't been thrown off.
Yeah, we're
Facebook?
good. Yeah.
We're good? Okay, good. So, John, you say there's some stuff rumbling. We're going to talk about some, maybe we'll get that on today or tomorrow, some interesting stories John's working on. Nationally, Alvin Bragg delays the trial for 30 days, allows the defense to review new information.
Concedes to the delay, essentially.
Yes, he concedes to the delay. What a nice guy he is. This is in the hush money trial for Stormy.
And he wanted the documents, too. Apparently, the federal prosecutors had a bunch of documents. Alvin Bragg's been trying to get them for a long time. Trump sent a subpoena earlier this year, and apparently they just got a dump of a whole bunch of documents, and everyone's like, yeah, we want to look at these.
Yeah, you'd think so. I wonder if 30 days is enough for 1,000 pages. That's a lot. I guess,
Yeah.
I don't know. Seems like a lot to go through. We're on Fannie McAfee watch. Fannie McAfee. We're watching down there in Fulton County to see. He has said, and I have sound on that. I want to play that because it's.
We're watching their Fannie.
This judge, he's running again. He had a challenger come in late in the game, and this is what he said in a little mic'd interview. I guess he was giving a talk or was at some event. Here's what he said.
So I made a promise to everybody. These kind of orders take time to write. I need to make sure I say exactly what I want to. And I plan to stick to the timeline I gave everyone.
So this week?
Should be out tomorrow.
That was yesterday.
Oh, tomorrow. Well, and
That's today, so,
Well, and even yesterday, Fox kind of thought it was going to be yesterday. It was up on the Chyrons, and you and I are waiting, and they said
thought it was going to happen.
It's imminent, and everyone thought maybe it would have been yesterday, but yeah, it's going to be today. So I know a lot of people are going to be glued to the TV and glued to the airwaves.
And then down in Florida, the judge denied one of Trump's immunity claims. Another one coming up. So I was thinking the other one might come down sometime, but it hasn't. From Eileen Cannon, who's actually a sympathetic judge, right? So lots going on there. We'll keep an eye on that. And the search for this Riley strain continues. Brian has it up on our webpage, 939theeagle.com and KWAS. This missing Mizzou student, and now they're investigating Luke Bryan's bar. I guess on maybe some suspicion that maybe he was overserved and then thrown out of the bar. That's an interesting twist. I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know all of the alcohol regulations, but I think there are. I mean, bars have a certain duty that if people are noticeably drunk, and obviously people have now seen the videos of him following that incident, and he's kind of stumbling and I think at one point falls. And so if you're falling down drunk, they don't want you serving people more alcohol.
I know at the last show party when Hannah got that way, I didn't want to serve her anymore. Helene said, enough. Stop it, Hannah. Enough Mad Dog 2020. No more.
I think
Kiwi Peach.
I think I've only been that inebriated one time in my life.
That's when she took this job.
It was on my bachelorette trip, if there's ever a time to do it, I guess that's the time. The videos and photos that came out of that night are enough to make me not ever want to do that again.
Yeah. And then House Budget Chair, Appropriations Chair, Cody Smith has trimmed a little bit off the budget, but I guess that's sort of a routine matter, isn't it?
$2 billion off of Carson's plan. It is, and we've heard, everyone's running for office, and we've heard a lot of criticism of the governor in the last year, just about, this is the biggest budget we've ever had. Some of this is one-time money. We've got to rein it in. We should be conserving more, all of this. And so we kind of knew that was coming. It's going to be a fight. We've got, there's a budget deadline. It's been really tough so far through the legislature. And the House is, even though they started early this year, they actually started with their hearings in December. But a lot of people have pointed out they're kind of running later than they typically would be in this process. And so I don't think it's going to just breeze right through.
I don't either. And we're at break right now. We're officially on spring break already.
We're looking at these major initiatives, the IP reform, initiative petition reform, education, school choice. These things need to make it through the sausage maker, and you factor in spring break, you factor in the precedence that the budget's going to take, and you wonder if anything is going to get done again. Oh, you guys and gals there, please. Don't let us down. Don't let us down.
The bottom line is, Randy, you bring up a good, and there is frustration with the base, with, not getting stuff done, but there is still almost 2 months left to go. I mean, you got to get the budget done, and that will dominate discussion. But I mean, the point of the matter is that there's plenty of time. Yeah. There's plenty
Haven't
of
we
time.
already gone 2 months, and has there anything been truly agreed and finally passed?
Not yet. Let me check just to make sure. No, seriously.
I'm on the website. I'm trying to check as well. I don't think
as of
so.
yesterday, there wasn't. I have my hands full with the weather yesterday. No, there have been in the House 1,684 House bills first read, 36
I
third
almost
read,
died in a car accident.
and in zero truly agreed and signed by the governor.
Is that rare? I mean, no TAFP before spring break.
It's Caleb could get us a little bit. Depends on. It's a great question.
Caleb's going to join us later on.
No. Caleb
7:10.
Being Caleb Rowden. In the olden days, in the 90s, they'd have probably 100 bills on the governor's desk right now, and it'd be bipartisan. But in recent years, no, not as much. And there was somebody was shouting on the House floor. Ashley Awney, you probably saw that. She's mad because she feels like Plocker cut her off, a Democrat, about guns. It's just, it gets emotional down there in the House. But there's just,
it's the people's house. It's the people's chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plocker, he was doing an ethics committee interview or whatever, right? A hearing, closed door hearing this week.
Yeah.
He's probably got a little short fuse,
They had another meeting the next day, didn't they, Brian? Did we hear anything out of that?
They can't. I mean, the only thing the chair. Obviously, I didn't go, and you can't get in there anyway. The only thing Hannah Kelly can say afterwards, I know the process is that we can't say anything. We had a meeting. I'm sure she can say that. We can't say anything until the committee is done, and that's it.
Yeah. We do need to review the severe weather that ran through the area yesterday. We, as we were in the last bit of the show, Hannah was getting some texts and pictures of, very small size hail. Mm-hmm. Did we ever get to golf ball size anywhere in our listening area? I didn't hear any.
Herman would be the closest. Chance Gotch was live last night at 10 o'clock. We really... The National Weather Service was pretty accurate on their forecast in terms of timing, but it was off of the bulk of it seemed to be a little bit more north and a little bit east than our area, although we got some very heavy rain, no question about that. And power outages were an issue as well. But Herman, to me, when Chance went live and showed the hail, that seemed to be the biggest hail I saw. There was also hail, pretty heavy hail reported in Fulton. No reports of major hail in Columbia or Jefferson City. We saw a lot
California, Missouri got some hail over there, but they were telling us it was about nickel size.
Yes, exactly. But we were very fortunate in terms of the storm damage. It could have been much worse. The good news is we're going to be cooler. We'll be down to 50 for a high on Sunday. We'll be lucky to get to 45 on Monday. And people may think, well, why is that? Because that means we're not going to have severe weather, and we need some dry time. The ground is very saturated right now. We're either drought or it seems like we're dealing with flooding. It's nothing in between.
If there's any auto body guys out there, something plagued me the other day. I started wondering, what size hail do you need to have to worry about car damage? Now, I know there's other factors, but the wind is more or less a sideways influence, more or less. But
that's one of those deals the body shop guys will tell you. It's different than it was in the way back days because vehicles now are built so much lighter with thinner gauge metal and all for fuel efficiency that it doesn't take very big hail to do a number on your vehicle.
And thousands of dollars, and people can definitely weigh in on that. I will tell you the most recent, the biggest hailstorm we've had in recent memory was Good Friday a year ago. Everybody at this radio station was parked on that Friday afternoon. Their cars all the station vehicles were just, they were in the body shop for months. The VU building down the street that they're purchasing from the city, that had, because I read the documents from the city, that we learned that building itself had $1 million in hail damage. The previous big hailstorm, if people will think back, the big one would have been September of 2012. September, not spring, September. It was the day before the Georgia game, and it was huge. State Farm and Shelter had to come in and set up special tents. It was a big deal. Yeah. My car had $6,000 in damage. That hail wasn't all that big either.
Shelley texts us, says south of Millerburg. She shows me pictures of the of hail on the ground, and in her hand, one of the hail balls is about the width it's a hail ball.
Is it a ball or a stone?
Well, I haven't seen it, but I do.
It's in the shape of a ball, but it's the consistency of a stone. So it's about the 2/3 of a finger. I mean, as she's holding it, and almost I would say 30% of her palm. So I asked her if it's 1.5 inches. That looks 1.5 inches-ish, almost 2. Yeah. So that's pretty substantial.
That could hurt somebody coming down. That's very.
She would say, I would say, biggest I've ever experienced south of Millersburg.
Yeah, and that's where Chance said a lot. Like I said, Fulton, Thanks, Herman, and I'm glad she did that and let us know. But
remember the hailstorm about 3 years ago? Because I know the car dealerships and our station vehicles. That was 3 or 4 years ago, and there were some 2-3-inch hailstones, and that storm did a number on our vehicles.
Just last year, our precious station vehicles fell victim to some hail, and it took a couple months to get them repaired just because the local body shops were so overwhelmed with hail damage from that storm.
That was the one from Good Friday a year ago. Yeah, exactly. And they were in there. Yeah. Very similar. John's referring to the one in Jeff City, and Hannah, of course, in Columbia. The one in Jeff City would have been March of 2021. The one that Hannah's referring to is in primarily Columbia a year ago. But yeah, it seems like this time of the year. But again, the worst one I remember was in September.
The problem with the one in 21 was that was COVID and everybody was home, so a lot of people couldn't fit all of their people in their houses' cars in their garage. I remember, and it did some really damage. It missed Ashland, but it really hit Jeff City hard.
Yes, it did.
A little behind the scenes here at Wake Up Mid Missouri yesterday. I think it was during the 8:00 break. I noticed body language on dear producer Hannah. She was getting a little nervous. She was a little. And she was.
That was after you compared me to your dog.
No. That's when you said it looks quiet out there, and the storm was coming up. Jinx. And you have a new car, right? Not a new car, but a new car for you guys, right?
It's the newest car I've ever driven. Yes.
Yeah, I always buy pre-owned cars, but they're new to us. So anyway. And I could just tell she was not feeling comfortable. And I'm like, what's the matter? And she's pacing up, and I'm worried about my car. And I said, no, I keep a moving blanket on the back seat of my big A truck, tucked in so that when the dogs jump up, they don't ruin the interior, the upholstery. I gallantly offered to go get my moving blanket and cover her car, and she declined. And the whole last hour, I'm struggling. It's like, please, hail, don't damage Hannah's car when she denied the moving blanket.
Yes.
I know, it was very nice of you. We were also only in a 4-minute commercial break, and I didn't think we'd make it.
I could make it happen.
Randy.
Yeah, it would be the first time I'd ever be late getting back into a segment. Okay, when we come back.
You go to the bathroom and you don't make it back.
Well, old guys do that. Daily DC Rundown coming up. Caleb Rowden, it's
despite a huge increase in worker productivity, almost all of the new wealth has gone to the top 1%, while 60% of the people are living paycheck to paycheck. Many of our people are exhausted. We work the longest hours of any people in the industrialized world. I think it's time for a shortened work week.
There's Bernie Sanders looking for a short work week as the D.C. rundown with Stephanie Bell starts now.
Oh, brother. He cited a bunch of studies saying that people are more productive if they have a 4-day work week because they're happier. But he also, so the way that he would accomplish this is essentially they would require overtime pay for anything over 32 hours, which is a disaster.
On top of the minimum wage skyrocketing. Oh, my goodness.
And his argument is that I guess we are way more efficient now than we were in like the 1940s. He said today American workers are over 400% more productive than they were in the 1940s.
And he would know because he was there.
He still has the mittens.
And I'm also like, have you seen anyone from Gen Z working lately?
Hey now.
Because isn't the other argument that TikTok, they're just on TikTok all the time or something? So we've talked a lot about that this week. So I think he's wrong on his facts. And I there's no way this thing goes anywhere.
And are the Chinese, because of technology that they're doing so well, are they just, are they going to go to a 4-day work week? Don't think so.
Don't think so. All right. We're a little short on time here, but
There's Chuck Schumer getting into Netanyahu and Israeli politics and calling for a new election and a lot of pushback. I mean, from many fronts. Welcome back into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Don't forget, Caleb Rowden joins us at 7:10. The furor over education choice that we talked about that Brian reported on, and Superintendent Yearwood was ranting at the Ready meeting yesterday, and Caleb got into it, and lots going on.
Lots going on.
Schumer really, I think he really stepped on it in this one. I mean, he's trying to, he was asked, they were asking questions of the former Israeli ambassador this morning on one of the news shows. It's like, is Schumer worried about the Israeli political calendar or the American political calendar?
And he even he kind of walked and waffled some stuff back, and he later posted on Twitter basically saying the U.S. can't dictate the outcome of the election, but the important thing is that Israelis are given a choice. There needs to be fresh debate about the future. Yeah. And so he's having to try to explain it away because he's taking criticism from all sides here. Yeah, something else.
Remember, it's Feel Good Friday, and so we invite you to come in and tell us about what's going on in your feel-good moments. Boy, a lot of a gentleman sends us from St. Charles large hail stones and damage on one of the caps on the vinyl deck, posts. Oh, yeah. Totally crushed, window damage. And then we had the post from Millersburg, so it was bad. And tornadoes, I think, around the country overnight as well. So it was a busy, active weather.
I saw a post out of Centralia with some golf ball and larger sized hail.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I'll jump right in here. I am still feeling good about the Jeff City Jays last night. They had a tough loss last night, but I got to tune in a little bit to the play-by-play and just being in the state championship. I mean, That's what right. An incredible experience. I know it's got to be tough, a tough loss getting all the way there, but sheesh, what a great season, John.
First time in 30 years.
Yeah.
It's exciting for them.
And you just think about the impact that has on the next season. You get some momentum in a program, and I think it really can turn out well for you.
Yeah, I think it's got to be inspirational for not only the team, but the whole school. I mean, it just raises everyone's spirits, and it's good. Hey, so John, how long was the power out yesterday? I'm just curious as a matter of just interest, because it was out.
In Jefferson City proper, they were talking about 3 hours, from a little before 6 a.m. to a little after 9. Yeah. And it turns out that Mr. Bell's report to us about the power poles down just north of Jefferson City out along the sod farm and the river bottom contributed to much of the outages.
Wow. Oh, really? Well, and I saw when I was driving home yesterday in the early evening, Ameren was still out there addressing those power poles that had been down. And I heard from several other folks that they kind of lost power intermittently throughout the day in Jefferson City yesterday.
Yeah, so
it was quite the mess.
Something else. There's another. So we're watching the Fulton County situation because Judge McAfee down there, in an interview yesterday, said that today he'll be coming out with this ruling on whether Fannie is disqualified or not, or who knows what's going to happen. Some are saying, Stephanie, and you know more about the strategery that goes on, and some maybe a little bit more about judges' psychology, having watched the way they make judge. He threw out, 6 total indictments, but 3 that applied to Trump, right?
Right.
Was it yesterday or day before? Mm-hmm. Was that basically maybe I think Alan Dershowitz, I heard him overnight on a podcast, and he was speculating, well, that's just playing homage to the Trumpians, and really now he's not going to do much with Fannie Willis. I mean, is that reading too much into it?
There's a little bit of superstition like that. And I always, and I think, judges want to decide the law, right? They want to do a good job. They want to do but I think there is some superstition as a lawyer, like, I'm not going to win on all of it. The judge is going to split the baby. If I win this, I'm not going to win this, and a lot of times you make alternative arguments, so you can't win them all. But I think I have a little bit of superstition that if, I get something really good here, maybe I lose on something else. And so, but I think it's complete superstition. But sometimes it works out that way. And you're thinking, I mean, honestly, like if you get into divorces and some things like that, they say if everyone's mad, then the judge did the right thing, right? Okay. Because, if one person wins it all and one person loses it all, that's probably not a very fair result.
Why do we need? Well, I don't know.
And that's in other cases.
Is fair always what's right? That's a good question, isn't it? Is fair always what's right?
Here, I have less. Here, I think, I don't think, although these dismissals came out earlier this week, I personally do not think that was like a gift to the Trumps because we're going to get something bad today. I have hope that we are going to see the hammer come down on Fani. And again, I don't even, the affair aside, I think it's the lying. I think, they were lying, whether he was lying in his divorce case. And there's evidence that shows that the testimony they gave, I think, was false. And I think that would be hard to overcome as a judge.
Well, and the bigger question to me is if you have a DA who the last time I checked is an attorney, and if they're lying under oath, last time I checked, is there a word that begins with a P called perjury?
Yes.
Okay. They have no problem going after little Randy or little John or little Hannah. I don't think they'd mess with Stephanie. She knows how to get out of that kind of stuff. No, but you know what I mean.
Mark Ellinger.
The people listening to the show today, we don't feel as though we would get that same accommodation if we were lying. They would go after us full-throated, both barrels firing,
But
so why should she get away with perjury?
Yeah, I don't think she's going to. Honestly, I hope that she doesn't.
At least disbarment.
Well, and I think that's the other thing is, you're not a lawyer, and as lawyers, we're held to higher standards. We have a whole code of ethics, and we have all of these rules, and of course we have the bar, and so why she and a lot of bar issues are confidential before final action, and so whether or not there's already a complaint on file, and whether she's being investigated or whether the bar's looking into it, I can't imagine that they're not. Given how public this.
Who files the complaints? Do other lawyers file the complaints? Like if there's another attorney in Georgia who's just say an idealist who just wants things right, and really is not even partisan.
I think anyone can file a bar complaint, really. I don't know.
Hey, John, you want to write one up? Let's send one down there.
And they've been, and I think, we have to be careful too with the bar complaints, because I think and we've done CLEs actually in some of the groups that I'm in on this. Josh Hawley drew a bar complaint, I think, over J6. I think that was, reported. And so the left has used bar complaints as kind of a cudgel and as, and kind of politicized the whole process and said, if you're out there, talking about election deniers, you should lose your bar license. Yeah. I think so. There's a line there. I think if you're lying on the stand as a lawyer, that's probably crossing the line. Yeah. I think if you're, advocating a political position, we have to be careful about politicizing the bar complaint process. So it's a tough one, but I think in this case, they've got she's. And I think if I was even anti-Trump, if I was on the prosecutorial team and I'm not Fani and I'm not Nathan, or any of that, I think I would want her gone if I hate Trump, because she's getting in the way, right? And she's making it about her and about this and not about Trump. Yeah. And so I think even if I wanted to get Trump, I'd say, let's get her out of the way. Let's go forward, ignore all this drama and move on.
Yeah.
I agree.
So let me tell you an interesting story about complaints to professional boards.
Oh, okay.
This is an interesting story. So I was a clinical assistant professor of OBGYN at WashU, where I taught and practiced as a private doc who then took residents in, and we would work with them and they would help us operate and stuff. Okay. So when I moved up to the country in 2006, I went through, I was on the air then and I had some bios and there were other things on, and I cleaned up what I thought was good, and I, eliminated that from my bios and everything. And about 2 years later, I get this email from someone that says, "Are you still a clinical assistant professor?" And I said, "Well, no, because I moved. I can't be, And, well, you still, you're claiming that online." I'm like, "Oh, no." And so I got my brother, and the guy pointed out where it was. There was an old bio somewhere buried in the depths on page 3, So I corrected it. I said, "Thank you," and corrected it. A complaint went to the Board of Healing Arts that I was misrepresenting my credentials. And you know who it was? It was from a radio hater.
Oh, yeah.
Now, here's the, and this guy went after everyone that was on that station. It's the same station that Chris Arps, it's a legacy station that, actually, it's an old story, but same station really that now has moved on under a different name to a different station as far as most of the people on air. And And the point is, and I asked the board, and so the board said, oh, you have to keep your professional identity clear. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, guilty as charged. Whatever. I fixed it, And I was so naive, I thanked the guy. I thought, oh, thanks for letting me know. That's good. And I asked simply, can I know who that person is? You don't know who the person is that accuses you. It's totally, anyone can do, is it the same with the bar? Could I say, I don't like Stephanie's red today, so I think she's a bad lawyer. I'm making her, because when a complaint is made to the Missouri Board of Healing Arts, they are obliged to investigate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a regulatory board, right?
There's something fundamentally wrong with this, right? That you don't know who your accuser is. You should be able to know who your accuser is, and you should be able to face your accuser. Isn't that a fundamental American value? I don't care. This little pipsqueak, I don't care. I have pity on the guy for if that's all the better thing you have to do is look at my old bios, But you know what I mean? Why are you laughing, Hannah?
No reason.
I think I'm on the Office of Chief Disciplinary Counsel, and I think if they find grounds that you actually did something
East high schooler in just a little bit. But during the break, I cower. I feel like a dog that's been slapped upside the head, John, when the ladies say, Randy, we're going to start a fight in this next segment. So I'm a little worried.
That's a short segment.
We are, because yesterday, I think we talked all week. We've been talking about the ban on TikTok and how social media is evil and how it makes us all depressed and have body image issues and all this. And last night,
but you should definitely go follow us on Facebook at Wake Up Mid Missouri.
And subscribe to our YouTube and follow us on TikTok.
And I'm getting better at social media.
You are.
I'm working.
I thought it was really interesting because last night I saw from a lot of creators that on TikTok that were reflecting on, there is a possibility, like, what if this all goes away? And the comments were something very different than, the evils of TikTok. And so on a Feel Good Friday, I thought we'd share some of those comments.
Okay.
It's all right here. And the most unreal part of it all isn't that it's documented, but that somehow I was graced with people on the other side of the phone who cheered me along every step of the way that I've never even met before. How crazy is that? That I've had every major life event, I've had not only a team, but a collective of people who were happy to see me succeed. Never in my life did I think that I would find that.
I won't be following that creator. That is out of balance.
What do you mean?
The vocal is out of balance to the music. I can't tell you a thing she said.
Well,
did you lose your hearing aids again?
I did. I
kind of loses something without the video, too.
And what she said was basically she'd been documenting her life for 4 years. And what was important was not that it was documented, but that she had developed a community of people who were cheering her on and with, her successes. And
she's developed a very large community. She has 12 million followers.
And I think, but I do think that there are positives of social media. And I think in the way that, some people, and I heard it from her, there were lots of people saying kind of the same thing.
So she lives in her basement creating video, not making human contact with anyone.
No.
Yes.
No, she's out.
She has 12 million followers. Do you really think that she's just hanging out in a basement all day?
Well, so did Hitler.
Man, I would.
Just because you have a bunch of followers doesn't mean that justifies a psychological cyber warfare platform coming over from the Chinese Communist Party.
And that's her job. I'm just saying, I think we can divorce the two issues of, yes, let's force TikTok or force them to divest, but we can also not talk about social media in a way that it is always bad and evil and the cause of the root of all of our problems.
And when more and more young people, like the 9% in the last 2 years who have given up TikTok because they understand it ruins their lives, if we do away with the enablement of letting it ruin your life, but then the government, under the guise of taxpayers, coming in and cleaning up your mess, then more and more people will be off of it. Yes, if natural consequences were allowed to accrue from the dysfunction that social media causes in way too many lives, I'd be perfectly all for that. But there's a lot of people that aspire to be this person who don't do anything productive. They don't get 12 million followers. They get depressed. They hurt themselves. They're non-productive. They go on welfare. And I think it's not good for them.
That's such a big leap.
It is, and I did see this tweet, and I had to heart it yesterday because I thought we would get into this fight. But I saw
it's not a fight; it's a discussion.
This from one of my favorite people on Twitter, and she says it's cheap to compare social media to drugs. Social media is speech. When you compare it to drugs, you're making an argument that speech is scary and dangerous. And so this whole social media ruins your life and it's bad like a drug.
It does.
I think people need to be really careful in making that argument.
Randy, are you trying to ruin your own life then? Because you're on this whole thing of trying to get better at social media. Are you just on a destructive path for yourself?
I am trying to accommodate.
Destroy your life?
I am. You know me. At my base, I am a pleaser.
This is actually an intervention.
I am a pleaser, but I also am self-regulating when it comes to social media. Mm-hmm. But I also understand the guilt that I feel when I, for instance, don't touch Facebook for a couple of days, and then I realize, I missed someone's birthday. Now I feel bad. I have to take a Prozac.
I don't like it because, number one, it takes away from our public schools. It takes away finances. When we are losing close to $25 million that will come directly from our finances, that will have a very negative, a detrimental effect by having to reduce staff members, having to reduce teachers.
Well, and the Senate President Pro Tem Caleb Rowden, that let's just say frosted his buns, to use a Gary Nolan phrase. Caleb Rowden joins us now. Welcome, Caleb. How you doing?
Good to be with you guys.
Yeah, so you tweeted, "This is ridiculous and categorically false statement," basically talking in large about Mr. Yearwood's pushback. You want to expand on that and explain why he's got it wrong?
Yeah, I mean, the notion that public schools, traditional public schools, and people who kind of advocate for protecting the fiefdom, the notion that they've made for so long that the introduction of choice into any situation, whether it's a specific community or a statewide type option, is going to have some sort of huge detrimental impact to public education is ludicrous. Specifically related to the bill that we passed out of the Senate, we have there's about $450 million new dollars going to public education. That's in addition to about $300 million that will come in the next couple years because of some changes to the formula. And so, I've never known an entity that can get us almost a $750 million increase and still cry poor. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, for me particularly, if CPS takes a couple $1 million hit and 300 or 400, 500, 600 parents and kids in Columbia get the chance to introduce some choice and have another option in their education, I think that's well worth it. So they're sticking up for a system that by today's standards has failed. Even in Columbia, where public schools have always been supported, and I'm supportive of CPS, always have been. But we've voted every tax increase and levy and bond up for the last 40 years. And I think Columbians, specifically after COVID, have said, hey, we're not sure we're getting our money's worth, and so we'd like to do something else. And so that's what this fight is all about.
Senator, we appreciate you joining us, and I want to point out to our listeners that this was, as obviously Randy mentioned, this was in the Ready board meeting. This was not at a school board meeting, and I happen to be the only reporter in the room. That's the only way we knew about the fact that he said what he said, and then I talked to him about it afterwards. But two main things he said, Senator, I want your take on this. And there were a lot of things he said in those sound bites that we played. A, he said flat out that charter schools will lead to the demise of public schools, A. And B, he called you Speaker Rowden, by the way. I think he meant Senate President Pro Tem Rowden. But he said that if this is so good, why don't they put it to a public vote? Those 2 points, your reaction.
Well, I mean, the public vote. First of all, they've never done that anywhere else. I met with the president of the school board earlier this week, and she kind of mentioned the same thing. And my point is, let's implement the charter and see if the demand is there. I mean, I think that the parents usually, talk with their actions, and if we implement a charter school in Columbia, 1 or 2, and they don't fill up, or there are issues there, then I think that's going to be the thing that will show us that the need isn't there. I don't think clearly if you take it to a vote in Columbia, Columbia is probably going to years ago. There'll be a bunch of money spent against it, and I just don't think it's a necessary piece of the puzzle. It would be the implementation of a new thing that's not happened anywhere else. So. The other thing leading to the demise of public education, I mean, the notion is absolutely ludicrous. I think, number one, charter schools are public schools. And so the notion that, somehow implementation of a new public school in Columbia is going to lead to the demise of public schools, I think is just asinine. And so, again, they kind of fall back on these very generic kind of doomsday platitudes that really have no bearing, in fact, anywhere else. I mean, I use the example of Kansas City public schools and the charter interaction there. Half of the students in Kansas City, in the city of Kansas City, go to a charter school. That has to say something about the need, the demand, and parents saying, "Hey, we'd like to do something different." And frankly, it hasn't always been this way, but in Kansas City specifically, the interaction between the traditional public system and charter schools is pretty good. It's better than it used to be, and I think the folks over there have gotten comfortable with, just having those types of options available for kids. But whenever we have charter school bills in the Senate, I mean, you have busloads of people sometimes who come from Kansas City and St. Louis and say, "Hey, our family has changed. Our kids' lives are different because, we were able to go to a charter school." So I'm going to use that as the evidence as opposed to a couple of superintendents who just cry poor and want more money.
That's Senator President Pro Tem Caleb Rowden here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, and we're thankful you're with us.
Senator, we've heard from some listeners out there have some confusion over the whole thing if it does indeed become law, how it's going to be implemented. They ask questions about the scholarships for private schooling and the tax credit program, and were confused if they were going to get a check in the mail or how this might work.
Yeah, well, the ESA program is already in effect. It has been in effect in Columbia since we passed the law in I think it was 2019. So that program's already in effect. What this bill did as it relates to the ESA program, it expanded it. The cap statewide was, I believe, $25 million. We expanded it to $75. We made some changes to the income threshold. It was 200% of free and reduced lunch. We raised that to 300%, 200%. These numbers are broad, but I think 200% is about $110,000 a year for a family of four. 300% raises it to about $160,000 a year income for a family of four. So, but the main thing was we expanded it statewide. In the first bill that we passed in 2019, it was, I believe, charter counties and municipalities above 30,000, I think, was the geography that we used. So yeah, I mean, otherwise, if they want to access the program, they apply, and it is a tax credit that they're able to get relative to the expenses that they have for sending their kid to a different school, using it for tutoring, using it for something specific relative to maybe a developmental need that their kids have or things like that. There's a bunch of ways that they can utilize the program.
All right. Well, we confirmed earlier this morning nothing has been truly agreed and finally passed yet this session. And we talk about spring break as being about halfway. But in fact, there are only 8 weeks following spring break. We've already done about, 10 weeks so far. So we're more than halfway in. Does that give you pause at all? Do you have concerns about the timeliness of the budget coming over from the House? What can we expect the first week back?
Yeah, it's a little bit concerning. We don't usually. I think in a normal year, I think, and every year is different, and we haven't had many normal years recently. But I think normal year, you get 8 to 10, or maybe 6 to 8 things that have been through the process at this point. So you're not that far off. The budget, I think, because of kind of the interactions of the Freedom Caucus and some of those issues, is probably going to be a little more painful than it's been in the past. We're still going to get it done. We won't not do the budget. We won't not do the FRA. Those things will just be painful. But I think I could see the last half, looking other than really large fights in the budget and the FRA, looking halfway normal, and we'll get some stuff done. Hopefully we get this education bill done. We sent out a fairly significant and large public safety package that Senator Luetkemeyer led the charge on. That is out of the Senate over in the House, and there have been a number of other things that we've done. So, a little slower than normal. We had our issues at the beginning of session, but everything has, at least for the moment, kind of stabilized. So I think we'll get where we need to be.
And I would just point out very quickly to John's question about the bill, because we've had a lot of questions too about the charter schools. Folks, I've got a story. I've got a detailed story up with the senator's comments, with Dr. Yearwood's comments, 939theeagle.com, KWS.com. I actually linked to Senate Bill 727. You can read it. Don't look at what other people are saying about it. You can read the senator's comments, read Dr. Gearwood. I'm not referring to you, Caleb, when I say that. I'm talking about people on Twitter. Senate Bill 727. You can read it in its entirety, our two websites.
Caleb, we thank you for being with us. And we can't let you go without asking that big unanswered question, that big 60,000-pound gorilla question in the room. Are you going to file? You haven't filed yet.
I thought you were going to ask me where I was going on spring break.
No, you don't. You can run, but you can't hide.
We haven't filed yet. We still have I don't even know what today's date is. We still have 10 or 12 days. So we got plenty of time, and we're still here, and we'll everybody will know here in not too distant future.
Okay, well, that's the best non-answer I've heard all day.
12 years as a politician teaches you a few things. Yeah.
There you go.
All right, Caleb Rowden, thank you for being with us, and good luck as the battles go on there in the General Assembly and in the Senate. Thank you, sir.
Great.
hopefully you'll forgive me because I'm going to be sharing a little CDC article this morning. And it's not the one about measles in Chicago because of some illegal immigrants. It's not that one. But today is an important holiday. It's a global holiday and one that's very near and dear to my heart. Today is World Sleep Day.
You are sleep deprived, dear Hannah.
I know. I started wearing my Apple Watch again recently, and it has a sleep tracking app, and I'm sure it's not perfect, right? Because it's an app on a watch. But I have yet to get more than 3.5 hours of sleep this week at a time, and I even felt like I went to bed early last night, so that's awkward. But this time change has me it's been harder to sleep this week. But I thought I'd share some tips for better sleep, so maybe I can take my own advice.
Okay.
Some of these are going to be, common sense that you've heard a bunch, but ones that most of us probably don't put into practice on a regular basis. Step number 1 is be consistent. Go to bed at the same time each night and get up at the same time every morning. Here's the catch, including on the weekends.
True. It's true.
That's where I struggle.
No, it's true.
If I don't have anything going on the weekends, my husband and I, it's real easy for us to sleep until noon, which I know is bad. And we wake up feeling not very productive for the rest of the weekend.
It's okay. Bernie Sanders is good with that. Go ahead.
Number 2, make sure your bedroom is quiet, dark, relaxing, and is at a comfortable temperature. I'm going to fail at that one this summer, too, because we don't have central air conditioning in our house. And the air conditioning unit that we put in our window is super loud. It sounds like we're inside of a wind turbine. Number 3, remove electronic devices such as TVs, computers, and smartphones from the bedroom.
How about earbuds overnight, listening to podcasts?
Well, what are your earbuds connected to?
Beautiful podcast talking about all things culture and politics.
No, but what device?
My phone.
Yeah. So...
But I'm a big no TV. I've never had a TV in the bedroom.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it puts me to sleep.
Well, I mean, that's good, I guess.
Yeah, I don't have a problem sleeping. What else?
Avoid large meals, caffeine, and alcohol before bedtime.
That's true.
Which I'm going to push back on the alcohol thing. I have one drink, I get sleepy. I sleep real good.
Well, but there's another reason.
Bad quality sleep.
There's a physiologic reason for the alcohol avoidance because it actually serves as a diuretic.
Oh.
and then you're up all night getting up. Well, if interrupted sleep is not healthy, then you're up all night getting rid of the alcohol that goes through your kidneys along with the fluid.
If Hannah's only sleeping 3 hours, there's not much time for interruption.
Yeah, well.
But does anyone in the Wake Up fam, has anyone been struggling this week to get sleep? Because I've been hearing others around the office talk about how they've been having trouble sleeping this week too. So,
or do you have? I'm like really kind of woo woo when it comes to this, and like sleep is very important for me. So you missed magnesium. You need to take some magnesium.
I have heard that one. You've actually given me some to try before.
It's super good for you. And then the latest thing I think as well is mouth taping. It's like all over.
What?
It's all over the socials.
We will not support United Racist Airlines. And then they were like, $99 direct to Denver. We're like, we didn't see the whole video. Just I want to go on spring break. I think he instigated it. It's something new every week. Remember with the Target, with the gender bathrooms? Ladies, remember that? Y'all were united. Y'all were you. We will never support Target again. They were like, Joanna Gaines, new line of throw pillows. Let's get in there.
Oh, that's funny. Who is that comedian, Miss Hannah?
It's John Crist.
John Crist.
One of my absolute faves.
And he's, for the most part, a clean comic. So
yeah.
Is he on Netflix?
Probably.
Or Amazon Prime?
I got that clip off Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you know how to work that one?
I do. Now, we had an interesting welcome back into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. It's Feel Good Friday. We do feel good. And we wear our red. I'm wearing my 1996 Sammy, what do you call this? Pipe?
Puff paint.
Puff paint. My wife did this
I didn't know it was still
with the kids. Well, that's 96. She did this with the kids on shirts and on ties. I have ties with this as well.
Okay, wait. So I need to do the math. How old is that shirt? 24 plus.
It's older than I am.
30. Oh my God.
No, 28 years old.
How?
I keep all my clothes.
It's older than I am.
But it's sentimental.
I know. So I was telling you off air. I'm like, it's very sweet. I think it's cute.
It says Samantha Hart's daddy with her. She was 2 years old then. She got a little handprint in glitter.
I told you though, you showing up wearing that was not on my bingo card for today.
You never know what you're going to get with me. You know.
I don't have anything similar to that. I have like notes and like. But
yeah, but I didn't wash the kid. I didn't do cloth diapers and puree the food either. So we all have special things we do with our kids.
What was it you called someone this morning? Granola? You had to explain it to me.
One of our 6th Ward aldermen, there was a picture of her. I said,
I wasn't going to say who it was, but there you go.
Sort of like a granola gal. You know, John, you know what the granola look is, right?
Yeah, I was a very granola.
There's a granola look.
Mom.
Kind of like a soy boy.
Yeah, but older women that have sort of a. Never mind. I don't know.
Birkenstocks.
Yeah, hippies.
Hippies.
I think that the term that would resonate with my generation is crunchy.
Yeah.
And that's granola crunchy. It's the same thing.
Yeah. And that's fine. I don't have any axe to grind. She just looks. She's a progressive, clearly, right? I mean.
What do you mean clearly?
Isn't everyone on the Columbia Public School Board except Don Waterman a progressive?
I thought you were trying to make that assumption based off of her appearance.
Well, I could just. I'll bet this woman is a progressive. People have a look.
There it is. I was right.
Isn't there
like we said, some Birkenstocks on up?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, come on. There's a tell. People have a tell about the way they look, the way they groom, the way they do their hair.
If you're hot, you're a Republican, right? Isn't that what people say?
Oh, I've said that over and over. Okay, John, true or false?
Sir.
You look at CNN. Now, the guys are going to have a discussion here. Ladies, you can go have some coffee.
Not this again.
It's true. And it's true about the men on Fox, too. Come on, ladies. Tell me if it isn't true. Fox, conservative circles have the most beautiful people. They're just beautiful people. You
Fox look on has the hotties. You can't deny that one.
You look on Donald Trump. I remember reading somewhere that people within the Trump organization have said that they purposely hire good-looking people to work in their hotels, because when you go to a hotel, you want to have a good-looking person. That's why I don't like being on the TV. I like radio. I don't turn off the TV.
Nancy says, I like her text. Did you see it?
No.
She says, her clothes are so old, they're now back in style. And
there you go.
I mean, I can't say a whole lot. I'm wearing one of my husband's fire department shirts from 2017.
Oh, so. I'm telling you. I have some suits that have wider lapels, and I'm noticing the lapels are getting wider on guys' suits.
Got any plaid?
I don't.
That's coming back into style.
I'm going to get a subtle plaid, I think. I like the plaid, but I don't like the thing that looks like a clown show. I don't like that. Don't like the clown show plaid. Some of these things that like the glare,
Well, I think we're kind of losing that in our clothing industry, in that now we have this like fast fashion, Shein and Temu and whatever else. And like when that stuff, if you wear it and then it just goes directly in the trash. Like it is.
Yeah, you get very few wears.
It's like $6. You couldn't keep it for 20 years, and it's kind of sad.
I have shoes that are 2 decades old.
Oh, that's gross. You need to throw those away.
They're Bostonians. the best shoes in the world.
Have they
right,
been resold?
John? You know, yeah, you get them resold.
Bostonians, yeah.
Bostonians, there's other great shoes. You spend $100 for a pair of shoes that have leather soles. You can wear them forever, and they're beautiful shoes.
$100 on shoes is nothing.
And you put
$100.
Well, that was 2 decades ago. When you spent $100 for a pair of shoes, it was a good pair of shoes. And then you put the shoe trees in there, cedar shoe trees. They refreshen the shoes.
Yeah.
And they really do. And you don't wear. I'm telling you.
The shoe shop guy had resold them.
Yeah, and you wear them. They're just beautiful. They fit you like a glove. There's something like a good pair of shoes. And, taking care of your feet and wearing good shoes and my wife gets new sneakers like every 6 to 8 months because she walks a lot and used to run a lot. And
so do I.
Yeah, do you?
I get new shoes. I don't know that I have a good excuse for it.
But it's really important because if you don't take care of your feet, then the rest of your body starts compensating, and then you get knee and hip and back pain. Very, very important. Super important to do that. Now, I have to take a little detour. Oh, by the way, someone did a good thing. Dwayne and I had an interesting discussion going here on the text because he says, I noticed that Randy is hammering on TikTok. Roughly 5 million U.S. citizens have started businesses on TikTok. We don't need the government babysitting us or telling us what we can and can't do. They do it enough as it is. I agree with all of that as far as the government involvement in our lives.
But China.
A lot of disabled people are able to earn a paycheck from TikTok who are otherwise unable to do it. Okay, I understand that. So it got me to thinking, and I said, Dwayne, that's the best argument for TikTok. You're right. But for tens of millions, it's psychologically harmful. And there's a national security threat, too. So the answer is to free it from Chinese control. And for those who can't discipline themselves and don't perform at work, educate themselves, or run a business, no welfare. Sound good? Dwayne says no welfare or government assistance sounds good, but the rest of your answer is more control over the people. I have an idea. Can we come to a compromise?
Probably not.
If you get fired from your work for cause because you're spending too much time on social media, or you can't get a job because you aren't familiar with what you need to be doing to get a job, and you're just sort of immersed in reels of people dancing. That's what gets me on TikTok. When these couples are dancing, that sends me down the rabbit hole. Love to watch couples dancing.
And what message are you getting from China from the dancing couples?
No, it's not that. No, but the point. China, but
man, this guy is easily entertained.
China's version of TikTok, I understand, they do educational stuff. They're raising the youth in the right way to be productive citizens. China first. We, on the other hand, dancing couples first, rage on the TikTok first, whatever, silly putty, make it into a whatever, all the crazy things that you do on TikTok. Okay.
Like get ready with me's or days in the life.
Okay. But here's the deal. So what if we said, if maybe we could come to an agreement, if you apply for welfare because you can't hold a job because you're addicted to TikTok, one of the people who threatens to kill themselves if their TikTok is taken away. Can we all agree there's something wrong there if you're that addicted to TikTok? Okay. Then maybe we should say we can monitor how much time you've spent on TikTok. And just like we means test tax credits for scholarships, means test meter your TikTok use. And if you're applying for my assistance because you can't hold a job, you don't get educated because you're watching couples dance on TikTok, and if I can, then show me your phone. Oh, I see you spend 8 hours a day on TikTok. You don't get welfare.
But some of it, I mean, if you're consuming or creating, because some of it, I mean, it blurs the lines, and you're saying, well, if you spend all your time on social media at work, a lot of people are during the day on social media for, all of my businesses have social media. The radio has social media. I'm posting on there not because I enjoy social media, but not every day, right? And it's part of it's marketing, right? And then I think also a lot of good is done through like nonprofits and community organizations. I spent a lot of time on social media when I was doing downtown Jefferson City stuff. So I think you can't just say all social media bad, unproductive. But yeah, but if you monitored the time, how would you be able to distinguish between the time that I'm actually spending trying to do a side hustle or do something productive versus just mindlessly scrolling, watching dance videos?
Let me use that logic and push back then. Okay, if that's true, many, many immigrants who are coming across illegal are actually going to be very productive and pay taxes and do a great job. So let's open up illegal immigration. It's good then. No.
I don't see how you came to that conclusion. Can you
I'm just saying,
explain?
Of course, you can't generalize, but there is no doubt that there is a correlation between the rise of social media of all types and adolescents who are the most depressed, anxious generation that the country has ever seen.
I don't think so.
In the most productive and prosperous planet that the country has ever seen. A country that the planet's ever seen.
Correlation or causation, because you also discount the fact of like where people started. I mean, people in my generation, we haven't lived in precedented times. I mean, we basically kicked off our adulthood with 9/11, and then we went into a massive recession, and then just as our careers were getting to a place and we were starting families, we hit a pandemic. So I don't know that necessarily depression is caused by social media.
Would you turn up the violins here, please? Are you telling me previous generations?
No.
World War II. I grew up in the nuclear age. Excuse me. We had threats
had depression too. I don't think it's a new phenomenon.
I had resilience, the great American spirit. Trouble is the essence of life. Trouble. I'm going to bring up a passage in Romans. I'm going to find the passage in Romans, and it's very true.
Do you need someone to help you with the technology to find it? Or you got it?
No, it's the Romans suffering passage. It's one of my favorites.
Smoke rising above the national wall.
Here we go. Romans 5:3. Not only so, but we glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. You see, we should celebrate challenge, not be victims. Oh, woe is me. I have 9/11. We. I mean, come on.
So you should celebrate the challenge that social media poses for younger generations.
And figure out the challenge of how to use it for good and not evil.
Yeah.
It is.
Or using it at all.
You guys know I'm playing with you here. But I think we can also admit I'm playing with you. I think it's fine. The people that I know are able to use social media to their benefit. There's an awful lot of people who can't, and it's not helpful.
3-year, $400,000 program to set an odor emissions rating system for regulating the state's animal feedlots. And they say having judges or government officials go sniff the feedlot apparently would give insufficient due process of law, so they would rather have a panel of sniffers. Already 35 people are employed at $25 an hour, and they've begun sniffing nearly 200 chemical compounds of cow and pig poop in order to categorize them for the formal state stench test. And they say anyone with an ongoing sinus problem need not apply. And the question that they've been posing to the potential sniffers, where do cow farts come from? The answer is their dairy air. And now you know the rest of that story.
So now, John, wasn't it our producer Hannah that said that the Bradford pears smelled something similar to that? Or
yeah, like rotten fish, I think.
Rotten fish. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, it was something else. You said cauliflower tastes like something. Yeah.
I think cauliflower tastes like what I imagine a fart would taste like.
Now, you didn't say
microwave it sometime.
She didn't say what she imagined a fart would taste like. She said what it tastes like, so we'll see. Now, I just posted a picture and I asked Hannah, sorry I interrupted your thing there. Bled through. I didn't have my mic off. And
if you were tuning into the Wake Up Mid-Missouri live video feed on YouTube, you would have seen me scold Randy.
Well, she does. I have my headphones off. I'm focusing on trying to be a good social media guy for her, just to make her happy. Because if you're not, you're some kind of a dweeb in her mind, you know.
No,
yes, you are.
I've never once
said that. You make fun
of
me because you're not social. And you know how John, do you ever have your adult children sort of like condescend to you and sort of give, like...
Oh, never.
Nah, hey, I'm struggling with this, and instead, hey, Dad, let me help you. It's like, oh, yeah, here's how you do it. That's what we get from Hannah, So I'm gonna try to do this.
I'm editing your post.
Well, why are you editing my post? My post was beautiful. It was a great post. It was the most beautiful post that anyone has ever seen.
All right, Donald. Okay.
Thank you.
all that I did is I said Randy. Like I added your name to the post so that folks know that you posted it.
Oh.
Because no one else on the show
she doesn't want to take credit for that.
So I cited a beautiful grove of beautiful in bloom Bradford pears.
They are pretty.
That was a nice picture.
Yeah.
My wife and I drove by. We got out. We said, "Where's the smell?" I have a good sniffer. I smelled nothing. I just saw beautiful Bradford pears.
Maybe they're not good and ripe yet.
No, they're actually losing their flowers now. They're beginning to. Does the smell happen as they bloom or after the bloom? I don't know. I don't think it's fair to impugn our Bradford pears like this, because I've had other people tell me they don't notice the smell. I think you have a hypersensitive sniffer, Hannah. Sniffer Santa.
Not really. I mean, but
do you glory in your suffering because you know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character hope? You should celebrate that. When you have a new sensation like a bad smell of a Bradford pear, you should revel in it because it should make you a better person.
Okay.
the appearance of impropriety by saying bye-bye to Nathan Wade.
Who said that the judge was going to split the baby? And that the good news
earlier
this week?
You didn't think it was going to happen.
Hey, no one likes an I told you so.
And there we go. There it is.
Here's right from the ruling. After consideration of the record, any distraction that detracts from these goals, if remedial under the law, should be proportionally addressed. After consideration of the record established in these motions, the court finds the allegations and evidence legally insufficient to support a finding of an actual conflict of interest. However, the appearance of impropriety remains and must be handled as previously outlined, which means say bye-bye to Wade before the prosecution can proceed. Willis can stay on the case. The defendant's motions, that is to dismiss Fannie from the case, are therefore granted. So ordered this 15th day of March 2020. Judge Scott McAfee running for re-election. I remind you, Randy reminds you.
The full 23-page order is already posted online, so you can go read it for yourself. But there's some interesting nuggets in here. I mean, it's disappointing, to say the least. At the same time, I mean, Fannie Willis, from her performance on the stand, I mean, she's a disaster. So is it in our interest
Maybe it's a good thing
to keep her, because she really is. And actually, the court had a little bit to say about this. You know, overall, he said, this finding is by no means an indication that the court condones this tremendous lapse in judgment or the unprofessional manner of the district attorney's testimony during the evidentiary hearing. Ouch. And then he just says, look, Georgia law does not permit a finding of actual conflict for simply making bad choices. So he's saying she's made some bad choices. Even more so, he kind of invites other people to get in, with respect to these other complaints. He said other forums or sources of authority, such as the General Assembly, the Georgia State Ethics Commission, the State Bar of Georgia, the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, or the voters of Fulton County may offer feedback on any unanswered questions that linger. I think that's interesting.
Fannie's in trouble.
Yeah, and whether she gets it from the Ethics Commission, the bar, or the voters themselves, he says, hey, it's up to you. You know, there are some other people who can handle this.
So it's an interesting thing. If you think about it, this isn't the first at-work affair that's gone on among people doing the work of a workplace.
No.
And you wonder, I mean, I've always asked myself the whole time, to be objective about it, okay, so Fannie's having an affair. What does that have to do with the charges involving Donald Trump and the other co-defendants?
And that's really, I mean, the burden was on Trump's lawyers to show that there was an actual conflict. And that's what they're saying is they can't, the judge is saying there was insufficient evidence to show that the prosecution was actually motivated by the relationship. One other argument that was made that I do think, could have stuck, the judge said there wasn't enough evidence, was if you're paying your boyfriend all this money and then you're reaping the benefits, then you have a personal incentive to prolong the case and to, overwork the case and to maybe overbill that case. And she doesn't, I mean, it's different because she's a prosecutor, but basically make more work out of this than needs to be because you're personally benefiting from the work itself.
Yeah, but lawyers are taught never to do that.
And they said based on her actions so far in the case, there isn't sufficient evidence to show that she's purposefully trying to prolong the case. Yeah. And no, lawyers don't want to prolong the case.
Never. Brian and John.
Now, why would they want to increase the number of hours they spend on a case?
You know what, though? I would maintain this. You could probably make an argument that not so good lawyers are more prone to do that. Good lawyers, like our dear Stephanie, has so much work to do, you don't need to prolong a case.
Yeah, we're busy. We're busy.
You know what I mean? I think
we're very busy.
And I know that. I think doctors sometimes may or may not be guilty of that. It's like, well, I'm a new doctor in practice. I need you to come back and listen to your heart when I don't really listen. Everyone has a way of extending their self-referral, right? You can do that.
Well, we heard so early on with this whole thing with Fannie, however she's pronouncing her name this week, Willis, that the whole thing they sort of tried to cycle back to, but didn't as much as we've seen in similar things, was the whole appearance of impropriety.
Yeah, you're right, and you wonder how that will affect the case going forward if she stays on it. I assume she will because she's made a campaign pledge. But I guess at the end of the day, you're right, Stephanie. That invitation for other authorities in Fanny's life to get involved is a very powerful one. And I can't help but think that someone somewhere is going to, Fanny
if
got
they
some
haven't
other
already.
issues. Yeah. Now, but I will say this, and ladies and gentlemen, you tell me if I'm wrong, but it bothers me. It still bothers me. And maybe it would not be in his jurisdiction. If I'm a judge, a district attorney who is an attorney, but also a citizen, raises her hand, puts the other hand on the Bible, and tells a lie. She told a lie. That's objectively true. How come the judge didn't say, I'm calling you out, whatever a judge is capable of doing, to say, you lied to the court, you're in contempt of court, and for that reason, you're off of the case?
Because then you're penalizing the client for the behavior of the lawyer. And so, for instance, so she will get, hopefully, we could get justice on that in a bar complaint, and she would be penalized. But here, if he kicks her off the case just because she lied, the only person hurt is her client, which is the state, right? She's not. Mm-hmm. And so the court's ultimate goal is to protect the client, is to get justice and to protect the client. So your client shouldn't be penalized. I mean, imagine, in a civil suit, in a divorce case, right? And suddenly, the lawyer lies on behalf of the wife's case, and they take the lawyer off the case. That only hurts the wife. It doesn't really hurt the lawyer. I mean, it does hurt the lawyer,
but I thought we were a country of the rule of law. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
And what he's
if
saying,
I get up on the stand and I say I'm a professor at Missouri University and I'm not, I lied. I perjured myself. And people in the Trump era went to jail because they lied about who was the guy, the national security guy. You know who I mean? Flynn, Michael Flynn. He, quote, lied. It was irrelevant to the case.
Or they'll get him for they get some people
it's
for
a process thing. How come she's not in trouble for a process, but Brian Hauswirth or Randy Tobler would be? Why are some people special?
I think she's going to be in trouble.
But why didn't he do it?
Well, because what was before him was whether to disqualify her. And again, we've talked about if she was disqualified, how would the case proceed? They'd have to bring in a whole new team. The state would have to spend more money.
I see. He can't deal with more than one issue at a time. Excuse me.
But his ruling is on the motion for disqualification.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You can't defend it.
I think she's going to get her due.
You can't defend it. She lied. Nathan Wade lied. Well, he should have said, bam, you're done. And how come the attorney general, how come he didn't call the attorney general? Georgia said they lied. Got to prosecute them.
Is there any because her and Nathan Wade are done, right? Is there anything in there to say, like, by the way, whoever you hire again can't become your new boyfriend?
This is a matter of proper and equal application of the law. If I lie under oath, I'm in trouble. Fannie Willis lies and she's not immediately in trouble. There's something wrong here.
All right, calm down here a little bit. I know you're worked up. You are. Take a deep breath.
Not Brian Hauswirth laying down the law.
Yeah, you need to take a deep. Good. Have some more of that coffee. You need to.
It's water. No more coffee.
Greg Jarrett was on the Eagle yesterday. Greg Jarrett was on with Sean Hannity, and he said that she is actually Willis is being investigated in a couple other cases as well, that there are people who were. This is what Jarrett said on Sean Hannity's show here on the Eagle, that there are employees who work for her that are willing, it's basically alleged improprieties. He didn't elaborate on what that is, but we will see. I think there's something else here that is very interesting that the national.
Stephanie's right. I understand. Well, I get worked up over.
I get what you're saying.
Little people lie and they get in trouble. Important people lie and they don't get in trouble.
And the thing that I found the most interesting before the trial ever started, even the controversy, when Willis was basically telling the former president, that we want to do this trial before November. I can tell you, as someone who covers the Boone County courts regularly, they can barely get to a routine trial in a year or two. I mean, they're backed up down there. There's a guy on trial right now for a case, as we speak, in 2019 or 2020. That's how backed up they are. So how are you going to take with discovery and everything? I never could understand that, but we'll see. Now there are critics of the former president. I've seen them say this, that do believe the charges that were dropped or whatever, they could be refiled. But again, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Can I do
very
something
emotional.
that makes me feel good on this Friday?
Sure.
Lying and getting away with it when others lie and don't get away with it doesn't make me feel good. The Knights of Columbus Lenten Fish Fry at the Father Helios Council 1054 in Jefferson City, benefiting the Vitae Foundation and the Pregnancy Help Center. That makes me feel good. That's this evening, 4:30 to 7 at the Jefferson City Father Helios Council.
Father Helios.
Oh, Helios.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry, my bad.
No, oh, good.
I'm thinking helium, but it's Helios. Okay,
they do
and
a great job.
$14 for adults, $7 for kids, under age 6 free. All you can eat fish. Wow, you don't just get a little take home a sack.
It's an all you can eat, and they also Father Helios is having their event, and also
shrimp plate.
They have shrimp there. They also in Columbia today. Our Lady of Lourdes is going to offer shuttles from 4 to 7. Our Lady of Lourdes, you can park at the church on Bernadette, and then they can shuttle over to the Knights of Columbus in Columbia. So the Father Helios will be going on.
Helios.
What about the Lutherans and Ashlands?
Again?
They're not doing it.
No.
They only did that one time. I talked to.
Is Tolton on tonight in Columbia or where?
As far as I know, Tolton is on tonight. But if somebody can correct us on this, I've not seen anything indicating they're not. But the one up at Knights of Columbus for sure is on, in Father Helios. And then I'll talk more about this coming up at Winners and Losers. There's a big event coming up tomorrow involving
Monitor, all closed around 0.3% down. Not the greatest day on the market. Energy led the gainers, and it was real estate that was driving the losers. And this morning, we're back in the red, celebrating Red Friday, but just barely. Dow just barely negative. S&P down 0.15%. NASDAQ almost 0.3% this morning. But maybe it'll look up later.
Man, that's a shame.
What isn't a shame? We got to give people something to feel good about on this Friday. And Hannah turned me on to this. Apparently, there will be a new restaurant coming to Kansas City, right? And they've and I guess supported by none other than Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. They said they're working with a group called Noble 33 Hospitality Group. They said this group has restaurants kind of all over, and they've visited the restaurants, really enjoyed them. This restaurant is set to open in early 2025, and it's got a special name, 1587 Prime.
Wonder why that is.
And I think there's so many Prime restaurants now. I'm like, and then then they like to put numbers before them, and I'm like, that's pretty clever.
Yeah.
They said it's going to be below the Lowe's Hotel in Kansas City. It's going to have 10,000 square feet, a lot of private rooms, and an impressive meat display, I think is what.
That's what she said.
I think is what is in the article.
Beef display.
A jaw-dropping meat display.
Oh,
there you go.
World-class chef's kitchen, an extensive wine collection, of course. I don't know. I'm kind of. I've got a mix. So whenever I used to travel, and whenever I traveled, it was always I always would go to a steakhouse. Like that was my thing. Like steak, or whatever. And now I just rarely. I don't.
I get it. Rarely.
Rarely.
But I'd much rather eat something that's specific to the region. Like if I'm close to the ocean, I'd much rather have whatever the seafood is. I'd much rather eat Thai or sushi or something that we can't. I just don't find myself picking a traditional steakhouse.
I am surprised that they're not doing barbecue. I mean, I know Kansas City's already very saturated with barbecue places, but Travis especially. He's always talking about Kansas City barbecue, so I'm kind of surprised.
And Kansas
Seems
City,
like upscale steak place, so is a pretty good fit.
Yeah,
but they've got good. I mean, Kansas City has a number of these very good steak places. If I was in town, would I want to go? Yeah. Did
Not
I go
me.
to
say you went?
You break the bank.
Well, I went to there's a cute little bar. I think it's called Prime Social, and that was where, if you recall, Travis and Taylor had their date after the game that they rented the private bar, and they took somebody leaked the photos from them hanging out there, and following that little leak, the next time I was in Kansas City, did I go to Prime Social? Sure did. So
Scruples question: If you're Travis Kelce, would you ask Taylor to be there at the grand opening?
Yeah.
But is that using her? Is that a gratuitous ask as using her?
No, I mean
I would prefer it if she would offer. If I was Travis. 833-874-9390 if you would like to weigh in on your winners and losers. Can we all agree that Judge McAfee's a bit of a loser this week? I don't know if you haven't heard. Judge McAfee down in Fulton County gives the prosecution an ultimatum saying, Fanny, if you want to stay on the case, you have to dump Nathan. I don't know if he meant personally or professionally or both, but at least professionally. That's the breaking news this morning. Okay, Stephanie, you're up for winners and losers.
All right, we'll start with the losers. I'm going to say the Lakers. They unveiled a statue of Kobe Bryant last month. It's a very nice statue, actually. And on the base of it, there's like a lot of text and records and other things. They managed to spell 2 NBA players' names wrong and spell the phrase coach's decision wrong. And so people are like, what is
Womp, womp.
And so they said, yes, we're aware of it. We're working to have these things corrected. So, those things aren't cheap. So that's a big, don't you have spell check or something you could,
Yeah, no kidding.
Should have checked that before they did that. And then also my winner of the week, I've got all sorts of weird, like non-local stuff, but UT Austin, I think, is one of my winners of the week. They had 4 years of test optional admissions for undergrad applications. And now the University of Texas at Austin will return to requiring standardized testing scores. And they said, this isn't working out for us very well. And I know we heard from Mizzou and some other schools that they were going to be kind of, what was that we just covered, Hannah, about test optional? And it just feel like
they extended it one more year.
Yeah. And I think that, because a bad test score hurts people's feelings. I'm like, no, it helps us decide who is prepared and fit for college. Let's get back to our test scores. So good on UT for just saying, let's go.
Wow, UT, the stars aren't quite so big and bright deep in the heart of Texas.
John, your winners and losers.
Now, I've got a good winner here. Folks in Herman gathered Tuesday night to remember fallen Police Sergeant Mason Griffith and show support for Officer Adam Sullentrup, who's recovering from his serious wounds, in the 1-year anniversary of the Casey's convenience store shooting up there. Of course, our big winner, Jefferson City Jay basketballers. They may have lost to DeSmet in the championship game, but one heck of a run. High school basketball, second place finish for the Jaybirds.
Yeah, they did. They played their hearts out, and I just can't emphasize enough, John, how much fun it was to listen to Kevin Kelly and Steve Duncan and David Fox. They do
good game.
Well, they do such a good job. David Fox can set that. He says 1-3, 1-2. He recognizes these zones. DeSmet had a kid named Dylan Duff that's going to play football at Kansas State. He was 5 of 5 from 3. They hit 10 of 11 in the first half from 3. You can't stop that. And it's just they played their hearts out. I agree with you. It was very disappointing. I was hoping they could win.
Yeah, but to have
good game.
To have gotten to that level is inspirational. That
tremendous.
Is just super.
Absolutely.
And DeSmet's a powerhouse. That's just one heck of a team.
And they've won many championships.
Yeah. Hannah.
Yes.
I'm your winner for wearing a red shirt, right?
Yes, you were one of them.
Oh, yes.
Had to go all the way back to 1998 to find it. Is that what it was?
1996. One of my daughters, Sammy, made this. My wife actually did it, and then because Sammy is only 2. It says Samantha Hart's daddy, and it's got her little handprint.
It's very sweet. It's very sweet. And
you're going to see this every week because it's apparently the only red shirt in the house.
I was going to say, does that mean you won't go whine to HR after the show?
Yeah, now my other kids are like, oh, how come you're not wearing my shirt? I don't know what to do.
Parents always favor the youngest. So, now, one of my losers of the week is Nancy Pelosi for this really cringy comment.
This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe.
So cringy.
That is cringeworthy.
And she had this look on her face like it was like an eyebrow raise, like take that. Like mic drop, and nobody applauded, nobody smiled. It was terrible. The Mizzou hockey team did something pretty cool this week. I'm surprised Steph didn't share it.
I know. It's on my list.
So they are in the ACHA league. It's not quite NCAA level, I don't believe. I'm not as familiar with collegiate hockey as Stephanie is. But they
kind of an advanced club team.
Yeah,
exactly.
They made the Final Four in the national championships for that league, so that was big news. I haven't looked to see how they did this week, but the fact again that they qualified for the Final Four in a national tournament is a pretty big deal. And then my last winner of the week, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe has been handing out his Women of Achievement awards this week. And a name that will be familiar to most of our audience is Megan Sievers. She was the recipient of one of these awards. And Megan is with Welcome Home Inc. in Columbia. And they do a lot of really cool work for veterans in terms of they house them. They kind of teach them how to get back up on their feet. It's a really cool organization. If you haven't heard about it, I think it'd be great for you to research it a little bit. But Megan Sievers has done a lot of really good work with that organization, and I was glad to see her recognized by the Lieutenant Governor.
That's super good. Super good.
Chuck Basie has also given a lot of work with that organization, has praised her as well.
There are probably millions of winners in the United Kingdom, especially those with gender dysphoria under the age of 18, because the National Health Service has said that their clinics that deal with that real problem, it's a real problem, are absolutely going to be banned from any kind of puberty blockers, hormonal therapy, or surgeries. They've discovered the truth, and they're not going to abuse those children anymore. So, I think that's an important milestone, and I hope that decision makers in the United States take a look at what the National Health Service has done. The loser is Bernie Sanders in my book for proposing a 32-hour work week because, the American people are so burned out. It's been so tough on them. 32 hours work week. He probably wants 50 hours worth of pay for 32 hours worth of work.
Most people would kill for a 40-hour work week.
Exactly. I mean, I can't imagine. And you know what? We've scoffed at it. It probably is going to get some traction. I'm sure
it will. Brian, your choices.
Got a couple of no losers this week, but I got 3 winners in no particular order. First and foremost, the Columbia CVB and Columbia Chamber of Commerce. They work very hard, and Desiree Reed-Francois was involved in this too when she was here to get the basketball championships back in Columbia from Springfield. No offense to Springfield. This is a huge deal for Columbia. And as Matt McCormick said this week at the Ready Board meeting, folks, you're going to have to wait for a table today and tonight, tomorrow. Please welcome our visitors. There are thousands of people in town. They're very happy. They're spending their money. Make them feel welcome. This is a big deal. Drive by any hotel. You're not going to find a spot in the parking lot. That's how big it is. So that would be one of my winners, Columbia CVB and Columbia Chamber of Commerce. Secondly, the Rockbridge Bruins. I'm going to tell you, folks, they got a big game today. Incarnate Word has won 129 straight games. Randy and I both grew up in St. Louis. They're coached by Dan Rolfus. He's won 12 Missouri State championships. They have 13 state championships in Incarnate Word. They got a girl by the name of Neve Caffey that's going to play at Indiana. She wears number 1. If you're at the game today, you'll see her number 1. She's incredible. Rockbridge is the last team, by the way, to beat this team, Incarnate Word. And Superintendent Yearwood told me, please get the word out, get the fans out there. So he's going to be there. Please get out there and support these Bruins. That'll be at 4 o'clock today at Mizzou Arena. If you can't make it, Andy Humphrey on the call. And last but not least, we talk about all the division and the bitterness and just, quote unquote comedians. I won't name names that are quite frankly not very funny. And they're just, nasty and just saying mean things. And my winner of the week will be a guy by the name of Bob Hope. He's not around anymore. Oh. But Bob Hope was one of the funniest people I've ever heard. I went back and looked at some of the things he said, and it was always in fun. It wasn't nasty. When President Clinton, who had a tendency to speak too long, was going to deliver his inaugural address, he got up, Bob Hope, and the crowd went crazy laughing. He said, Bill Clinton's inaugural address will be the first one we need an intermission. And the crowd loved it. He had the ability to do that. And Hope actually came here, Randy. I don't know if you remember it. He was here in Columbia in 1976. And I'm sure people remember it. He was here with a guy named Ted Boehm, who later became the sheriff. They were here. And I really miss him. And my dad pointed out when I told him about this, Dad saw him at Fort Leonard Wood in 1968. At Fort Leonard Wood, Bob Hope. And he sang a song, too, with a guy named Bing Crosby. It was called Straight Down the Middle. What a great golfer he was. But I miss that man. He really did a lot for our veterans.
There's another winner that I didn't mention,
all right,
and he's sitting across the table from me. His name's Brian Hauswirth, because that reporting on Andrew Bailey's interview that we did on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on Monday, so the whole family here gets, I think, some credit for that. But Brian wrote that story and got the attention of FoxNews.com, and it was one of their stories up there.
And another attention grabber this week was the Yearwood interview that you got, and we got a nomination from Roger. Says, my nomination for loser of the week is School Superintendent Yearwood, who appears to be more concerned about his huge 6-figure income than he is about attempting to improve the education of kids.
Wow.
Savage, Roger.
And I keep forgetting, I have one more winner of the week. And it's another Wake Up family member, and it's Stephanie.
All right.
This week was her 3rd Zimmerversary, as we call it.
Oh, that's right.
So,
yes.
she likes to call herself not a radio person.
Oh, yeah, right.
I feel like after 3 years, you kind of have crossed the threshold.
That's great. It is the 3rd anniversary. Yeah.
I think you're the only one now who has been here longer than me, right?
Well, John.
Well, yeah, but on the Wake Up
show,
family.
yes.
On the Wake Up
go.
family.
That's
I'm an old lady.
And Steph says it seems much, much longer.
Yeah, you've done a great job. And you replaced Breck. There was a young lady named Breck Dumas, and did a great job. But you've done a fabulous job. I really enjoy your thoroughness and research.
Now, Brian, on the other hand,
yeah.
You remember,
hopefully nothing about
in the last segment when I got a little worked up over the injustice that if you and I, if we lie on the stand, the judge will not gloss over it in the subsequent order.
We'll probably be charged.
There was nothing that I know that I've seen in this order. There's 23 pages. I haven't read the whole thing, but I've been skimming it. Nothing about Fannie Willis's perjury about when her relationship with Nathan Wade started. Forget about who paid for what and cash in the bed springs and whatever. But I got worked up over the unequal and you told me to settle down.
I said, have a cup of coffee.
Now you said settle down. Now, Angela.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath.
Angela came to my rescue.
Yes.
Angela, listener Angela, you're a winner. Randy just said what everyone yelled at the TV when the Fannie news came through. So there you go.
Yeah.
And Twitter is crucifying the judge right now.
They are.
I mean,
they are.
The more, I mean, we had 3 minutes before we came back to try to review the decision. But as people are really digging in, they're pointing out their inconsistencies, and people are really unhappy.
And I guess my deal is, look, I do get worked up about these. For some reason, I'm really worried about the elite and special treatment that certain elite and special people get. And I think we see this increasingly in our country. We see it with legislation that favors certain groups, certain companies, even the ESA here in Missouri. Why was that only in Kansas City and St. Louis and Columbia for a while? Now it's going to be statewide if education choice comes through. I just, that's why I'm a flat tax guy. No one should get special treatment. My dollar that I earn is the same as anyone's dollar. We should all pay a flat tax and be done with it. I think that's an American virtue that seems to be lost on us. How can a DA who lies on the stand be credible in her prosecution going forward if she maybe in cross-examination tries to catch someone in a lie? It's the hypocrisy of it that really, it just triggered me. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, you don't apologize. I think there's a lot of listeners I know that agree with you. And to just for people that didn't hear that, when I said calm down, I was worried about I was worried about because you were really getting worked up.
I was kidding you. You know
you
that.
You do need to take a deep breath.
It's a stress test of sort. If I don't get chest pain during one of those rants, I figure it's a good day. It's a good day.
But Greg Jarrett here on the Eagle did say yesterday that she's under investigation in a couple of other cases, is what he said. I don't, we'll see what happens with her. But
would she get to appoint her replacement assistant prosecutor? Is my question.
That's a good question.
See, I would think that would come from the court, but I don't know how Georgia.
One of the listeners reminds me that
it might come out of the attorney general.
We were talking about Bradford pears being stink.
It's called getting old.
No.
It's called a sleep injury, I think.
John, this is where you're going to hear this over and over again, and more if they keep at it. One of my favorite movies, which is a bad movie, but the best line out of one of the latest Terminator movies, out a few years ago now. Old Terminator Schwarzeneggers with a young, sort of like on this show. We got the young whippersnappers. They think they're going to teach us old guys a thing or two. And they're loading guns, old-fashioned weapons, no laser, Terminator weapons, and they're loading guns. And the young guy looks up because Schwarzenegger fumbles and a round drops out of his hand. And the young guy looks at him with some kind of a snide, look like, oh, yeah, you old guy. He looks at him and he goes, I may be old, but I'm not obsolete.
I mean, to be fair, I call myself old all the time.
Yeah.
Because I have similar ailments.
And I've started to wake up with aches and pains, and I think the only explanation is getting older.
I think what happened was the other day, I was so tired, and because we closed on our house yesterday. So I had left some lawn implements up there to cut the grass and maintenance stuff. Well, I had to load all those up on the truck, get all that stuff done over the weekend. I've made like 3 or 4 round trips up to Northeast Missouri in the last week. And so that plus the practice plus everything, I'm getting to bed at 10:30 or 11. And then, so I'm tired. So I took a nap the other day. I think I must have just slept on it wrong. I don't know. Man, it's just like, it's killing me. At any rate, I didn't get to this Jason Whitlock thing.
You teased it all morning.
Well, he talks about victimhood and how.
Who is he, first off?
He's a guy, Jason Wood. Is he on Outkick? What is he on? One of those things. He's a sports guy. He's a big time sports African American guy, and he talks a lot about what's wrong in the African American community, largely about, and in this case, talking about the Hazelwood East thing. He's talking about how we've created a culture of victimhood. And we need to really think that through. Is it helpful to make everyone a victim of someone else's, bad things happen, And yeah, there are times to be a victim, but just because someone looks at you cross or you don't wear the right color red.